All right. Welcome to the July 25th Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. If you can add your name and affiliation to the list of attendees so we have some idea of who's regularly joining, that would be appreciated. And otherwise, we have the usual agenda for us. If there's something you want to add in, feel free to chime in now or jump in at any relevant section. So don't have a lightning talk scheduled. But if there is one you'd like to give, reach out to me. We'll get it scheduled in. And let's take a look at the recent end user issues. So I don't think there's any that have come in since the last week looking at this, because I think the JLink issue had been open before. So is there anything in this list that needs some discussion today? Okay, then we'll jump back to the agenda. So that brings us to the 040 release. Does anyone know if the GA started now? When I look at the, I know we had been blocked last week on the XLC HarfBuzz issue. I don't see it in the milestone plan anymore, so I'm just checking to see if there's anything else outstanding or if we've started the GA now.
I think the HarfBuzz thing was rolled back, so we've started RC1. Triage is mostly complete, but there's still the delta testing and CV testing going on.
Do we have a tentative date for when we'll be ready to release?
I don't think so, but I would estimate mid-August, mid to late August, based on historical.
Okay. All right. Don't think there's anything else we need to touch on then for the 040 release. Then I guess that brings us to 041, where our code split is coming up towards the end of August, and we still have quite a lot of issues in this plan. We've got 70 open issues. Some of these look like they've been rolled forward a number of times. So it might be a good time to either decide we're not going to fix them and close them, or to move them to a backlog plan rather than just rolling them forward. Is there anything in this list that needs some discussion? I think there's too many to go through each one. Toby, can you go through this from a VM perspective and make sure that anything that needs to be moved out has been adjusted, and if you can also poke Daryl and get him to do the same from a JIP perspective?
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Just reiterate that code split date is coming quickly, especially given the likelihood of vacations over the next little bit. So if you own one of those items, please make sure that we're progressing those. JDK 21, just going to pull up that wasn't the link I was expecting. That's the link I was looking for. Our milestone plan. We've got 36 items still here, which again is probably too many to go through individually. Are there items in here that people own that they expect to have closed out in the very near future?
Actually, there are a few redundant items which I plan to close this week. And some of the JVM-TI issues will also be closed in the next week. So I think the number of issues should probably go down to 25 once I have gone through the list.
Okay. That'll be good to see. Items like this, the solutions for the less than 4 gig memory limitations, Is that something we're still planning to address in 21, or are we rolling this further out?
I'm currently working on a prototype to address that issue. If we can have it ready before the cutoff date, we plan to release it in 21.
Okay. Just looking at what our cutoff date is. Originally, we had been looking to have code split already. I assume we haven't done that at this point. So if we were, last week we talked that FFI was the long pole item. Are you targeting, Jack, that the under 4 gig for some of the original dates, or are you targeting to be in before FFI?
I am currently targeting, I think, beginning of August to be ready for the change.
Okay. And by ready for the change, does that include reviews, or does that just include the prototype having been tested?
That's just for the PR open and testing.
Okay. I suspect that means we're looking at a week or more of reviews on something large like that, right? So
Yeah.
starting to run into the FFI time scale there. Chang, do you have an update on the FFI timeframe? Is mid-September still accurate?
Currently I'm still working on check test figures. Hopefully this should be finished this week, by the end of this week. Hopefully, I need to double check what else to be addressed, and I'll move forward to get started working on the unit support.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else we want to touch on schedule-wise for JDK 21? All right. Then I guess that brings us to the end of the release section, unless there's something somebody wants to jump in on. Okay. Adam, is there an update on the infrastructure?
Same as last week, but I was unable to say the update last week, so I can do it now. We had an issue with the Sent7 box. It's fixed now. It's back in the pool. The website was migrated a few weeks ago, both for OpenJ9 and OMAR. There was an issue with the OpenJ9 website. The content was a little out of date, and the doc section was not there because it's like another site on its own. So we opened an issue with Eclipse for that, and they followed up, and it's all taken care of now. So it looks good. I don't think there's anything left to do there. For Mac on ARM, we only had Mac 11s up until recently, so we've added one Mac 12 and one Mac 13, so we just upgraded two of them. And for Mac on X, we have had 12 for a little while now, so we upgraded one of the 10s to Mac 13. So we have 11, 12, 13 on both platforms, as well as 10 on X. So that's good variety. Capacity planning for JDK 21 and post is still underway. I think one of the big activities we're going to do for that is basically eat all of OMAR's machines and share them back to them. So that'll get OpenJ9 more capacity and better utilize what we have. Yeah, that's about it.
Do you see that addressing the will getting OMR's machines cover the extra load that we're going to put on it by having 4 LTS streams plus a feature release?
I don't know if it'll do it 100%, but I think it'll get us a good ways there. We might have to kind of see where it gets us. But we're still need to talk about other options. So.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. Any other questions or comments around the infrastructure? All right. I don't think we have Marius on the call, so I assume no update on JIT server unless somebody else has something they want to chime in on there. Toby, is there something you want to call out for CRIU support?
So the only major thing is that we're starting to do experiments with OpenJDK CRAC and seeing what would be required to support that on J9. I'll probably have a prototype in the next couple of weeks. So try that out with Spring Boots and Micronauts. Yeah, that's about it.
I think biggest change there will be the life cycle model. They have similar events, but they don't have the same single-threaded mode that OpenJ9 has. So if anything is taking locks or using locks in that world, then it will be a bit more of a challenge when it ports across to OpenJ9. The crack code tends to use more locks to control access to resources rather than relying on single-threaded mode. So any given class may have a lock that it takes when updating shared state, and or checks that a lock is null. And when we hit the on restore mode, that lock gets inflated and used. Or sorry, when we hit the on checkpoint mode, that lock gets inflated and used, so it stops other threads on access. So there may be some fiddly bits there.
Yeah, I was thinking that we may need to introduce a multi-threaded hook that runs pre-single thread mode. So it aligns more closely to the crack model. I think if it's already built, if their lifecycle API, I think it's the context and resource APIs. Those are built in a multi-threaded fashion. I think
yes,
it would make more sense to add that capability rather than try to fit it into single thread mode.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I still think that model has more problems with data consistency, but time will tell as users pick it up to see how willing they are to live with that inconsistency.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to call out on CRIU?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thanks, Toby. Hung, is there anything you want to call out for Valhalla?
Nothing to update.
All right. And last week we had talked a little bit about the Xdebug option. I'll open this up for a second. James had noted that the java.compiler property has been removed. I've seen pull requests removing Xdebug support as well. So it sounds like this isn't worth making changes in OpenJ9 for such a corner case in functionality that's being actively removed. So I've closed this item. If this is a concern where we're seeing this more commonly, we can revisit it. But I think closing this is probably the right call at this time. Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Is there anything else people wanted to bring up this week? All right, then I guess we call it here. Thanks, everyone. We'll meet again next week.